A little bit. The swirling thing. And we're live.
Yep, 10 seconds in.
All right. Good evening and salutations, our soap opera fans. So tonight we're going to be sitting there talking about the soaps as usual. Um, but I want to get into first the Tyler Christopher, and I'm going to sit there and ask you first. Do you think that he should come back? Would you want him back?
Okay, this is my personal opinion on that. When it comes to Tyler Christopher, I personally was more of a Marcus Coloma fan. I feel like he brought more vulnerability to Nicholas. So I don't know that would be necessary. But I feel like in order for me to take this role seriously, because there's just been too many recasts and too many like 2-day recasts coming in for Nicholas, that Tyler Christopher I would be okay with him coming in, but if not him, then it would be hard for me to take this role seriously. But I did prefer Marcus Coloma over Tyler Christopher. That's my personal preference. What about you?
Um, my whole thing is like when I started watching it, it was Tyler Christopher. So I wouldn't have a problem with him coming back because I'm used to him being Nicholas. It took me a while to have all these different people come in and be Nicholas. What's good, Dolly? What's good, Black Mom? What's good, Jen? How you doing tonight?
Just coming
Thank
in
you for
like it's
joining.
slapping on. You saw the chat,
Shauna,
you slapping on.
Makai, how you doing, sis? How you doing tonight? Thank you for joining us. Victoria as well. How you doing tonight? Usually we're gonna sit there and go in and out with the chat and stuff like that. We're gonna try to include everyone as much as possible. So I don't want anyone to sit there and feel like they're not being included tonight. Sierra's in the chat. Hippie's in the chat. Hippie is early. Thank you for joining. Um, I'm not actually coughing as much as I did yesterday, so I feel like I'm starting to do a little bit better.
Did you get the cure from Orpheus yet?
But again, I'm used to Tyler Christopher being in the chat. I mean, I'm used to Tyler being Nicholas, so I'm okay
Yeah.
with him coming back if they was to come back. My only thing is as long as he took care of his demons, I would sit there and say.
Why does
'Cause
everyone keep mentioning this? The whole DUI thing. I mean, he's not the first GH star to have a DUI though.
it's no, it wasn't that. It was the stuff he was doing on set.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like him coming to work drunk and everything else multiple times. And then even his time on days, we sit there and do stuff like that. So, I mean, I know that was years ago, and I'm hoping that he's doing better. So I think that just be my only hold up if he's, going to be back, you
I
know?
mean, here's the thing with Tyler Christopher coming back to GH. I mean, because I said Marcus Coloma to me brought a vulnerability to the role. It's kind of like when I see, like for example, uh Taylor on B&B. Because I remember I was there around the original Taylor, just like I was around for the original Nicholas too. Well, technically, Tyler Christopher was not the original Nicholas in all technicality, but
That's true. That's true.
like I said, there was a vulnerability brought to the role, and I like that when I see that with different actors and actresses. So for me, I kind of not surprised Marcus Coleman got fired because GH is always in the news for the wrong reasons. But to me, Tyler Christopher was. I don't comment on people's acting, but it was kind of, for the role of Christopher, for the role of Nicholas, it was kind of stiff. It always felt stiff for me personally.
I mean, that's fair. When I first started, I guess for me it was hard to sit there and tell because I was still getting used to the soap, getting used to different actors and stuff like that. So when Tyler came in, I was just like, "What the hell is this guy?" It took me a while to get used to him, but I was like, "All right, fine, whatever." Um, but again, I don't mind him coming back as long as everything is good in his personal life. Then I'm cool with him coming back. And I know some people probably don't want him to come back because you know how people are. You do something 10 years ago, it doesn't matter. They don't want no parts of that. There's a
Right.
lot of people that don't want him back because of that. And I'm
Like
just like,
on the show, the cast or crew, they're fans or both.
the fans.
Really?
Yeah.
What did he do?
I mean, besides the fact that he was coming into work drunk and high and everything else.
I didn't know this. I knew he had DUI, but I didn't know all this part.
Yeah, no, I knew about the DUI, but I mean, this is stuff that I heard from people as far as him coming into work drunk and high and stuff like that. So, I mean, granted, I don't know how true that is, but I'm just saying. I understand why people, it's just one of those things where it's like, It happened years ago. At some
Yeah, they
point
should
you
let
either
it
got to.
go.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same. And I hate to sit there and say this, but it's what's the guy that played Rory? What's his name? Blake something.
I don't even know his name actually.
Blake something. We're gonna call him Blake something, but you know about his past, right?
About the racial tweets.
Yep. And granted, that was 10 years ago, and he apologized since then. And
Because
he's,
he could
you
have
know what I'm
grown from
saying?
that. I'm gonna say something that's not an unpopular opinion. He could have grown from that. That was 10 years ago. What was he?
Yeah,
Probably like what, 18?
he was 22 because I think he's 33 now.
Yeah, so he could have grown from that, I feel
Yeah,
like.
that's what I'm sitting there saying. So I'm like, and people still were just like, oh, I don't want him on the show anymore because he did this stuff like 10 years ago, and it's like,
But my thing is, if the cast and crew can let him back in with no issues, then that shouldn't be a problem for us.
yeah,
And honestly, like, I mean, I did prefer Marcus Coloma, but everyone had a huge issue with him. My thing with Marcus Coloma is he looked at the only thing I would say with Marcus Coloma, because I did enjoy him, was that Marcus Coloma looked a little too young. Like him and Spencer, like they're brothers, more than their father and son, you know. And even though like Nicholas had Spencer, like maybe you could say like a young age or something, that still doesn't really even translate on screen. They look like brothers, like the same height.
yeah.
When Spencer was pointing his finger in his face the other day, a lot of like that was a bit much. I was waiting for Nicholas to go like, get your hand out my face. I was waiting for that, but um, I I I do know that Ty Crisper has a better chemistry with Maura West, who plays Ava, but yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I still stand by Marcus Coma. I thought that he was pretty good. I mean, at this point, for me also, I don't think Tyler Crisper being brought back is going to save that storyline. I don't think he'll save any of the storylines on GH right now. Um, I don't think people even know where, like, I still don't even know half of these storylines are going. The Willow storyline is the only one that I have the remote clue of, like, and not so much I need to know where this is going, but I'm like like somewhat intrigued, like maybe by like 5%, 5% intrigued, a little bit,
Yeah,
5%.
just 5%. Jesus.
Because at this point, it's just like, I watch GH now just out of routine. At this point, it's just a routine, and it's an actiony soap, so it keeps you somewhat interested for a little bit of while. But for me, Tyler Christopher coming back, not come back, it's not gonna do anything for me. So
It's funny that you sit there and say it's routine because a lot of times, I ask people in the chat, ask people, in the comment section, what the hell are you doing? No,
I
but I
just want to
always
do
sit
my.
there and I ask people, why do people still sit there and watch it? And they say the same thing. They're like, out of routine, out of just being familiar. It's part of the routine. They have their coffee in the morning, they do this in the morning or whatever. In the afternoon, they have their kids. And it's a part of what they do Monday through Friday. It's like, it's kind of weird for them to not sit there and watch it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, and the thing about it is too is that, like, but the storylines have just not been. And I mean, I
Good.
hate saying this. I feel like I sound like a broken record. I feel like sometimes at this point, I keep saying this about GH over and over again. But I mean, even B&B picked up the slack last week with Bill Katie. They picking up the slack with them. Like B&B's picking it up a little bit. That's how GH is what's going on. Because I mean, GH and BB used to be in the same boat, and now it seems like B&B left it behind. Like the Titanic. So
Yeah, isn't that weird? Again, and I always just gonna say this: when I get home from work and I'm more intrigued with watching Y&R before I watch GH, that's a problem. That's a problem. Oh, and just on a side note, I finally saw that scene, the Jack
which one?
scene, the
Oh,
Jack
to
scene
have
where
a
he
seat
throws
on
up.
me.
No, no, yeah, exactly.
Told you it was epic, right? I told you it was epic, right?
I think that might actually been the best thing that happened in like scene for me in a soap opera. And it's interesting because I was watching James. How you doing tonight, Ethel? I was watching James, Sunday Chef or whatever, with him and Frank, and he was like, he missed good quotable scenes, and I'm just like, watching that scene, watching there was another scene with Victor and Nikki where I guess she was trying to sue him for like $500,000, and he was like, "What are you out of your cotton picking mind?" And I laughed so hard, and I'm just like, "What happened in those scenes?" And not just with YNR, but just in general. Though. When was the last time you actually thought of a really good scene? You were just like, "Oh, that is so great."
You know,
Think of
yeah,
it this year.
I think it's been a minute. I mean, the thing is that Weiner is picking up the slack. Weiner is just picking it up. I don't know what happened. I don't know if Josh Griffin is ready to be out the door. I don't know it's because of that other guy that got rid of Weiner on the set, but it's like it's picking up steam, and I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Like almost all storylines of Weiner are like catch my interest. Everyone pretty much besides Noah. Noah never really catches my interest. 5 years it doesn't caught my interest. But all the storylines are actually catching my interest, engaging it too. So when I look at that too, B&B with Bill and Katie this week, when Bill was all crying and Katie was just like, "Yeah, I'm good." Katie was like, "I'm good. Like we've been doing this for 5 years, like for years and years. Like nothing's gonna change. I'm just here because Brooke is not available." So for me, I do wonder that too. But now I look at Days, right? I look at Days. Days is still bringing awesome goodness, and not every day is going to be 100%, but Days has been giving at least 70%, 75%, 75%. So just above passing, And YNR is catching up to the curve. And B&B this week was actually pretty decent. I mean, even seeing Brooke and Taylor kind of get along, I was like, "Oh, this is new. Like I've never seen this before. This might be interesting. Keyword might be interesting. Keyword of that." So yeah.
Yeah, the whole Bill thing with him and Katie. I was like, this dude. First of all, he's clearly going through like some sort of nervous breakdown. But then I was also looking at it, and I was like, this was a little kind of scary. Let's think about this woman. This dude is so, I need you, otherwise I'm going to go to the dark side. And granted, yeah, it was a little kind of cartoonish. It was a little kind of cartoonish. But when you sit there and you say yourself, let's just sit there and say this wasn't Bill and Katie, and you saw a situation like this. Wouldn't you be afraid for this woman being like, yo, this woman is in his house
desperate
by herself? And granted, we could look at it and be like, okay, it's a soap opera, whatever, but it's like that scene was just really intense.
Now, but have we all been there when we begged for somebody to take us back or something to stay around? Not earlier years. Have we all been there?
Yeah, but not in a way where it's just like psychopath. Like he looked like, granted, if I didn't know him, he would have strangled the life out of her.
Yeah, it was kind of scary. He had a little necklace on, and in my mind, I'm just like, I was proud of Katie because she realizes that she's just only here because she's only considered as an option because Brooke is not available, and I feel like Bill only wants her because one, she's not available, so that kind of like there's a little bit of the attraction factor that's there, and the whole I need you, but it's like you had many times to need her, you had many times to want her, you had many times to be there for her, and time again you chose your sister over her. So I feel like at the end of the day, I was proud of Katie for just like, yeah, I'm good. So I'm gonna go ahead and head out with Carter, let's see where this goes. And I'm gonna get back at you. I'm gonna holler at you.
And then at the end, he put on a necklace like he was putting on some sort of dark energy or something. I'm just like, see, you had me in a scene, and then you took me out with this cartoonist crap. But okay, cool. You know what? I can get a good laugh out of it, so it's all good.
But what happened to him and Lee? What happened to him and Lee?
Yeah.
Lee. What happened to that?
Isn't that crazy? Like she was there, and people, and the way that the show teased the audience by being like, okay, maybe there's going to be like a connection or whatever. And a lot of people were for it. And then he just said, oh, yeah, whatever happened to that story? Screw it. Let's do Bill and Kate. Let's have him go psychopath. Yeah, that's true. They did drop the ball on that. I totally forgot about that until you said something.
Because it's like just when you think you've got it somewhat figured out, you really don't. Just when you think you got it figured out. So for me, I was just like, where was because the whole Sheila thing with the toe, I'm like, okay, like I'm humoring it for right now. I'm humoring it, this get up in this disguise, because one thing I don't like on soap is a stupid villain. It doesn't make it interesting for me. A villain that is just Sheila's giving Jan Spears, but like older years. coming on. That's what I'm getting with Sheila. Because I like smart villains. Okay, I'm a person I like smart villains. I like Helena Casson. I like me. Sometimes even EJ Demira, Stefano Demira. I like smart villains that have a purpose, that have a craft, like Orpheus, right? I like smart villains. But Sheila just going up to Steffi and then like walking into her and then the toe, you got your toe. Like, you didn't think to wear closed-toe shoes. Like, you didn't think that because I mean, that was a big thing. That was a big thing, You just came out walking out with sandals on, knowing that one of your toes was cut. You didn't think about that. Like,
And she did kick herself for that afterwards, but still, yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah. It was just to me. It was just so comical at that point. But for the most part, B&B, I think they're attempting to step it up. But GH, I'm like, I don't know where's anything going on any day of the week. I mean, the Nina, Willow, Carly, Michael, Quadrangle, Bodrangle storyline they got going on, all 18 of them, is the only thing picking up steam, and that's catching a real interest. But everything else is just falling completely flat on me. This Liz storyline, for example, it's just so stupid. I'm like, Liz, you didn't even have to put yourself in this position in the first place. This wasn't necessary for you. You didn't have to do all this.
And then when we think about it, like Nicholas didn't have to sit there and involve her either. The dude is rich. He could have called any other person, any other nurse, any other whatever, just sit there and get a doctor to come over there to check on Esme. But instead, you decide to get your practically childhood friend, somebody that you know for years, to come over and do that, knowing that she's going to be an accomplice.
Like, you may tell me the Castanites don't have no secret or private doctors somewhere, like on call. Like, I find that hard to believe at this stage in the game. Yeah. I'm sure they have their own version of Dr. Rolf somewhere, like in the trenches that they could have called up. But to have Liz in this mess, every time she's in it, I'm just like, man, like, you did not have to do all this. Like, this wasn't, you already had your own drama going on fitting your dad. Like, now you just insert yourself into Nicholas's drama.
Well, now, speaking of that, I want to sit there and talk about Brooklyn and Chase, because what do you think of that situation?
What do you think about the storyline, honestly? I mean, she didn't write the letter for him. This is my thing. You guys were sitting there hiding and running out from a what is it? A WSB most wanted criminal, aka the Great Peter August. And you mean to tell me you're not writing a letter for him to come back on the police force is what's going to tank your relationship? Like, when you compare the two together, we just compare the things they've been through, and it's not like this is like years or 10 years ago. This was literally probably just like last year, or probably within the remnants of the little bit of the first few months of this year. We saw them go through that, and so now this is what's going to tear them apart. Because I feel like they tried the Peter August thing, bring them together, and that was like part of it. But then they try with the whole, to get Brooklyn songs back from the music producer guy, and then they try the sexual harassment storyline. That didn't click. I know y'all noticed that they slid that in there. See, okay, we're gonna slide this in there, and now it's the whole she didn't write the letter to the police force. I just don't get it personally. What are your thoughts on it?
In the beginning, I kept. Oh, damn it!
Gotta call Orpheus. Orpheus that cure. I told you.
I kept sitting there saying that Brooklyn was toxic, right? But they got these two together. Okay, fine. So she doesn't write the letter for you. And you're sitting there today blaming her, talking about, oh, well, she didn't write the letter. And now I'm not going to be a cop because of her. I'm like, no, you're not going to be a cop because of you. Because you wound up hitting two civilians. Because, I don't know, you were trying to.
Why did they do it to protect Brooklyn?
Well, I mean, no, he was doing it to sit there and protect her honor. Let's just be clear about that.
Right.
My point is that he did this to himself. And yeah, her not writing a letter, it was bad. It was selfish. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, and I felt like that's going to be the thing that's going to break the. I feel like you could have gave her a second chance, because people aren't perfect, and she did something in the moment. You know her. You know how she is. It's the first big mess up that she's did since they were together. You can't be like, all right, fine, just don't do this again or whatever. You're just like, nope, I don't want to be with you. Really? And then you guys sit there and blame her for something that you did. Like, she wouldn't have to write the letter if you didn't put your hands on people.
Now,
You
see,
know what I'm saying?
how come Nate Hastings is not given the same grace by you? Let's talk about it. How come he can't be given the same grace?
Who?
Nate Hastings. How come he can't be given the same grace? That's what I want to know. How come he can't be given that same grace?
I mean, it's a different. Well, one, it's a different scenario.
Because he sacrificed his whole career for Elena.
Yeah, but she didn't tell him to actually, want to get into a fight being a surgeon. Did she?
True, but Devon, I think,
Yeah.
was the one who laid the first punch, and that's how his hands got crippled or whatever it was that happened. So you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm gonna defend Nate today. You gotta defend.
I'm not gonna lie. I felt like this was just literally out of left field, and it's one of those things you can't compare one thing to the other. So I don't understand how you're trying to. I'm
To
a little
compare the two.
confused. Yeah, I really am.
Okay.
I mean, it's
I
about
guess,
choices. So
I guess in a sense they might be two totally different situations. Now, Brooklyn, I guess I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite tonight, but I don't feel like she should be given the grace in this situation just because they just went through running from a WSB Most Wanted, the great Peter August. And my whole thing is, at this point in time, when does the childishness with Brooklyn stop? When does she grow up? That's my whole thing. When does she grow up at this point? When you go to that lengths with someone, you should really want the best for them. After running from a WSB Most Wanted criminal and pretending to be the maternal and paternal figure in this case of his child, but I didn't see that happen. Brooklyn and Chase, I can't take them seriously. I just cannot take. To me, they're like comedic relief on GH. I can't even take their storylines halfway seriously. Chase's best storyline was when we thought Finn was his dad. That was one of the best storylines in GH, and I wish we would have gotten that because we would have seen how he would have had to navigate through the awkwardness of the person you think is your brother your whole life is not your father, and your father is really your grandfather, and your mother got it on with your brother, and it was just so many elements to go through, but we didn't get that. But it's all good, guys.
you think that they didn't do it because it just seemed like maybe it was a little bit too controversial?
No. I don't think. I mean, at least I don't think so. I feel like honestly, I mean, Jonathan and Tammy were the most controversial couple ever in soaps, which were the Kissing Cousins and Guy Light. That was the most, and they got married. That was the most controversial couple to date. But I feel like, to me, they just dropped the ball on that. They really dropped the ball because that could have. Because here's the thing, and I say this all the time. I love it when one story can tell 10 stories, right? And one prime example of that on GH is Michael Corinthos when he was born and the whole taken from AJ. That story is still playing out to this day. It's still playing out to this day. Like like we'll never forget it. But that one story told like 20 stories down the line. We got the Claudia thing. We got the Michael in prison. We got all this different stuff. We got when his girlfriend Abby was murdered and all that other stuff. And we got all these different things from Michael just from that storyline. Just from that one storyline they told back in '96. We've gotten 20 out of that. And I feel like right now the writers don't know how to write storylines for the ages. Like Luke and Laura's storyline is still kind of even being told to this day. Well, I feel like now it's getting wrapped up. Now it's like past 5 or 10 years getting wrapped up. But it played out for almost 30 years. Yes, we got the wedding. Yes, we got all those things. But then there was the time where Laura confronted Luke about the assault. And then when Laura killed her stepfather in 2001, and then Luke had to save her, and then she came out of the coma, and then of course Lulu asking her mom what happened, and Laura telling Lulu how her and her dad really met. Like it always played out in segments. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I can say that. I could say that. I don't think that. Well, yeah. I want to sit there and kind of pivot for a minute into who's the actress that played Sonia
Eddy.
Sonia Eddies. And the reason why I want to sit there and pivot to that for a minute because Brock was saying something earlier. Not Brock, James, as far as what kind of tribute that they're going to do for her. And so I guess my question for you is, do you think that they're going to do something that's going to be fitting for her?
James made a good point on his live this morning where he said that Christoph St. John, who played Neil Winters on YNR, got a whole two-day memorial kind of episode tribute. And it's possible that Sonya Eddy won't get that because she was a very memorable part of GH, but she wasn't written as a memorable part of GH. If that makes sense at the same time. I think personally she should get that. You know, and of course, if I was the writers, I feel like this is the time where they could bring back maybe Stan, her son had a son, and Epiphany's grandson comes to town, and you establish a whole new family called the Johnsons, and you know, something like that. But I don't think they'll do that. If anything, I don't even know how they're gonna handle this. To be honest, I really just don't even know. I don't know if it's gonna be like a 2 minute tribute in the episode, or maybe episode GH where like people come to the hospital and they say, "Oh, Epiphany's gone," and they have like two. Like I just feel like because she wasn't a mainstay on Canvas as I felt she should have been, that this can go either way. But what do you think?
I don't. I'm going to sit there and say that I don't think that they're going to. I feel like my expectations have to be low for it because you look at what's his name, Stuart Damon, the guy who played
Alan Quartermain.
Yeah, they didn't do a great job with him, and I just don't feel like they're going to do a great job with her. You know, like you said, they'll probably do something like maybe 2 minutes towards the end of the episode. And, you know, she's been on the show for a while. She's been on the show for a very long time, and I wish they would have made her a main character. I wish they would have actually done something with her story.
I never understood that.
Now, granted, I say that she could have had her own reasons. She could have just wanted to be a recurring character. Who knows? But I felt like they didn't really do much with her story, and I just don't feel like they're going to do a really good job. Um, you know, as far as a tribute, if they decide to give her a tribute.
Whenever
I just
Sarah
didn't.
got that med school degree, you know, the thing with Epiphany is Sean Donnelly. Remember the Sean Donnelly episode they had where Robin came back and Monica and they were in Scotland?
Mhm.
That man hadn't been on the show in like in 40 years, and that actor had been on like 5 to 10 different shows right after that. And it is weird that he got a whole day tribute and Stuart Damon didn't get crap. And Stuart Damon only died, I think, a year or two after in real life, after his character was killed off on GH. They could have done like, oh, we're visiting Alan's grave and having like, you know, they could have done that. But Sean Donnelly, the actor who plays him, I forgot his name, but he hadn't been on GH for like some 20, 30 years. And like I said, they gave him that whole episode tribute. Maybe they learned from the Stuart Damon thing. I don't know.
Mhm.
But that was weird because they didn't even do that for Edward Quartermain. And Edward Quartermain was still on the show when he died in real life. So it wasn't making a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think the last time that I think they did something really good besides the Sean thing was Lila. Because they had the funeral like it was a real funeral. You know, so when you watched it, it didn't feel like you was watching the show. It felt like you was watching real people that was giving tribute to, you know, to the actress.
Right.
But I don't feel like that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah, you don't think they'll do it justice?
Nope. I feel like my expectations have to be really low, and they're just gonna do something. They're gonna do something. Okay, they're not gonna do anything. It's probably not gonna get. It's not probably not gonna be what we want it to be.
Because what they could do is they could give us an episode of Epiphany, and then on the nurses' ball can now would be a memoriam of Epiphany as well. Like, you know how they have it for it's in memoriam of Stone,
Yeah.
and it could be in memoriam of Epiphany. It's just because it is weird because okay, and I'm asking you and everybody in the chat. I don't know if you guys all remember how the guy who played Sean on One Night to Live, who was Blair's bodyguard for like 3 or 4 years on the show, and then I think on his 5th or 6th year, they finally gave him a full-time role. He was in the opening credits with his little suit on. You know what I'm saying? They gave him a whole backstory. They gave him a sister, they gave him a love interest, and his brother, who was like the long-lost doctor coming to save Matthew Buchanan from his mysterious disease. They gave him all this stuff. And I'm like, they could have done that with Epiphany all those 16 years that she was on the show. And it is possible that she once been recurring. But if you look at it and you think about Albert, that's like it feels like that's almost everyone's story right now in GH. Like I'm sure everyone in GH would like to have a main front burner storyline, but they're not going to get it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they're not going to get it because for me, they gave Epiphany a storyline back in '08, if you remember, when her son was, like, I think, kidnapped by Jerry Jacks.
Yep.
And he came on, and she was crying at the nurse's station. She's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And Monica came in, and Elizabeth, and GH Night Shift. They gave her good stuff. They gave her good stuff on Night Shift, but Night Shift doesn't exist in the General Hospital universe. Only the Port Charles.
And not Port Charles, but just the main Port Charles stuff.
Yeah. Like, well, I'm also talking about the Supernatural Port Charles too. Some of their stuff still exists in the GH universe, but Night Shift and GH universe, it was like two parallel worlds.
Well, it did exist somewhat. It did exist because they did have certain characters from the Night Shift come on the regular show.
Oh my God, that's right. They did. You're right. They did. But the problem was with Night Shift is, like, I would watch and I'd be like, how come they can't just do this stuff on the main show? Like, this is the same set, this is the same thing. Why can't y'all do this on the same show? It was weird to me. But it's like all the background characters of GH, and I guess that's probably what it was. It was like a spinoff, like, of the background characters in GH finally getting the storyline. And I'm like, man, Sonya Eddy could really act. And it was just shocked that after that was over, they still didn't give her nothing. They're like, nah, we're good. We're just gonna have you sing at the nurse's ball every year. You're not alone. We got you on that. That was it.
So you basically Smith is saying it wasn't really a recurring thing. It was just they just didn't want to give her a story.
That's what I think it is. And it's not so much, okay, they were trying to hurt her or anything or make her feel bad, but it's just like they definitely were not giving her, because I mean, I look at even Elizabeth. Elizabeth's been on the show the actor plays Elizabeth, been on the show for some 20-some years. Storylines have been piss poor. And if I was a new viewer coming in right now, I would think that she was like a supporting character. I wouldn't think that she was a character that's been on the show for 25 years. If I was a new viewer coming in, like, think about if you were a new viewer coming in, how would you view half of these storylines?
No, you're absolutely right. And I think when if I would first watch it and I would think that way, then I'll be like, oh, she's been on the show for how long? And they're giving her this? Really? They gave Joss way more story than they're giving somebody who's been on the show for damn near 30 years. That's insulting. That is insulting.
And it just shows, because they didn't give her like the meaty kind of material that they could have given her. I mean, her and Marsha, I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. And this med school thing, I mean, I wasn't really taking none of this storyline serious, because I know they weren't going to see none of it through. But it was something that they gave her. But I just felt like the execution just wasn't there. The execution was not there. I mean, because when she came on, I remember there was Spinelli on and all this other stuff. And Spinelli was kind of like a background character. And now they're slowly merging him to a main character. You notice that they're slowly merging him to the front burner where he belongs. I feel Spinelli, he belongs. He deserves it. He's paid his dues.
Well, he was kind of a main character for a while.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, I think he probably might have chose to be a recurring character because he was doing stuff outside of the soap stuff. Him and Steve and everyone else. They had their own stuff that they were doing. Right. But I think he was starting to become a main character for a while.
Yeah, he was. They had him on like the promo shoots back in 08 to 10. Like, they had him on. So actually, okay, you got a point. You really got to do have a point. You really got a point on that. You do. I mean, do you think that was the case with Epiphany? They just didn't want her on? Or what do you think about that?
The thing is, in a perfect world, I would like to sit there and think that she probably didn't want to be full-time, and maybe that's why he did that. Because in reality, there's no reason why. There's no reason why she shouldn't have been a main character. It's not like she didn't have the fan base to even sit there and support that idea, because she did.
Right. Because the thing that I find the problem is with GH is that they don't know how to take storylines. And I think a lot of the other three soaps struggle with this. Days the only one I think has got a handle on this, is taking storylines with veteran characters to the next level instead of getting us repetitive stuff. So, we still have Carly scheming and stuff, which is fine, but sometimes you want to see the characters progress to another level, the different type of storyline. Like on B&B, we had the whole Ridge and Taylor and Brooke love triangle just a few weeks ago, And then with YNR, the same old with pretty much everyone. Whereas Days develops out their vets, right? We know John and Marlene have been through the stuff where they broke up, got divorced, all this stuff. Now it's like they're fighting crime together. Now it's like they're taking the characters to the next level and not through the same stuff that we've already seen them in. And I feel like when we look like characters like Elizabeth, this just feels like Elizabeth from 2010 when she was doing stupid stuff with sleeping with Nicholas behind Lucky's back. Like I feel like she's evolved past that point. She's got 3 kids. Her husband just died. You know, she just met her father. She just found out she had a long lost sister, and which Hayden's name has been barely mentioned this whole time because I don't think we've even had the conversation that where was Jeff Weber during Hayden's death. That still hasn't come up. But this is the perfect time. But I don't know. None of my business. You know.
Well, you're absolutely right. And isn't Hayden also Jeff Weber's daughter?
Yes, that's what I'm referring to. Hayden. That's what I'm referring to. Hayden.
Yeah, and he didn't. I just.
Has he been met?
No, or what's Violet to Jeff?
His granddaughter to Hayden.
Oh wow. Damn, they really.
I'm like, this is the only time probably with the Webbers on since y'all took this long to do this. So I'm just like, let's establish all the bases here at all time. Because my thing is like, okay, he cheated with Reiko, but he also cheated again with Hayden's mom, and we didn't establish that through this conversation. So I don't know why Libby's mom was so mad. I mean, that wasn't the first time. He did it again with Hayden's mom. That's like Hayden give about. So it's like,
yeah, they didn't bring up Hayden once. He didn't seem like he was distraught or anything like that about it. He didn't even talk about it. He didn't even talk about it.
And Finn didn't even seem to acknowledge when he saw Jeff Weber. He's like, so mad, oh, you shoot with Reiko. But that's also the grandfather of your daughter. That it's like that never even came up. That was I was glad they had him, you know, meet with Heather Weber and acknowledge that. But that was also the opportunity that it just missed. It was a missed opportunity for me.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Now, going into next year, we'll go from soap to soap. We'll start with GH. What do you think the stuff that they can improve on to make it better for next year?
Definitely the pacing. I mean, I think we all know that, you know, and the 10,000 people, shorten it up a little bit, give everyone a real storyline that we can invest in. And that's not going to be around once every 5 weeks, because when Trina was all, we only saw you guys once every 6 weeks. Like, I was just like, okay, like I was just eating my chips at the time. Like, okay, like we see you guys once every day. God, why would you take it?
They crying with no tears. Yeah, no, it was
straining. It was a little straining to watch. It was straining a little bit. It was straining. My thing is, give us the GH that saw us actually have things developed out. Obviously, and this is one thing that just took me out yesterday, yesterday's episode. I'm relating it back to what you're saying about the soap. But when Dante was like, Rory's the third victim, it looks like we've got a serial killer in our hands. And I'm like, that's been established 2 months ago. Like, where have you been? Where have you been? That got established like 3 months ago to the viewers. Like, it looks like we've got a serial killer in our hands. You think?
Yeah, that was so dumb. That was so dumb.
And technically, Rory was the 4th victim. Odds Haggerty was right before him.
Which, by the way, it's funny that Diane survived the same thing that Rory didn't, and yet they had the anti-venom.
Okay, but they couldn't whip it out for him.
Yeah.
They just couldn't whip it out. And my thing is, what about that body that was in the apartment with him? Whose apartment was that? Had they acknowledged that? Whose apartment was that? Whose apartment was going to? It's like so many loose ends. Okay, but to answer your question, get back to what you're saying for GH. That's what I would change: is the pacing, the overbloated cast, and better storylines for the veterans. Just to summarize it, because I know we got to go from soap to soap. But yeah, that's what I would do for GH.
Now, for me, I mean,
and whatever for you,
I've said this, you said that, and I think the answer is pretty obvious for me. Is the characters, because when you really think about it, that is the top part of the problems. Because the pacing is bad, but you have so many characters that you have to get through that it really messes with the pacing. You know, people are just like, even people that are just like, you know, with Austin, we don't really know much what's going on with him, and we barely see him. He goes right back to the fact that you have too many characters on the show.
He's a whole
So of
port of
course we're not going to sit there, and then even with Miss Wu, they'll sit there and show her. It may not even be a great scene. Now she may have some better scenes after that, but we got to sit there and wait 2 or 3 weeks because there's too many characters.
I mean, they brought Miss Wu on, so much promise in this character. I was excited. And then they threw her on the Holly storyline, which was me way too random. But I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take it because it's the only thing you guys have given her like 6 months. I'll take it. Besides her coming in, Bradley, where are you? Besides her giving that, like, I was like, okay, I'll take this. I'll take this. I'll take it. I'll take it. But now we're not gonna see her again for another 3 weeks, and it's like, okay, okay, right. So let me ask you this then: what would you put for Days if you had to choose for what they could do differently for next year?
Oof.
You're like a star child at the moment when it comes to soaps.
Now the thing with Days is that they're doing a lot of stuff that she should be doing.
Facts.
The problem that I have with Days, Jade for the most part has fixed that. They don't have, yeah, they may have a lot of characters, but they don't use them all at once. They have enough characters where they focus on certain characters throughout the week, and we can, we can get into them. And then when it really comes down to it,
You
is
sure about that?
well, they're not as overloaded as GH. We know that.
Right. Okay. Talking about Days. Okay, yeah.
So
You're
yeah,
right.
so when it really comes down to it, it's like the pacing on Days is a lot better than GH because they don't have as many characters to sit there and go through.
Right. Okay, yeah. I agree with you. For a second, I thought you were talking about GH compared Days, but yes, I
But
agree with you.
so I can't really think of too much that they can do to change it because a lot of the problems that I have with GH, Days seems like they have a handle on it, or at least a better handle than GH does.
Because I feel like Days has covered all the bases, is giving everybody what they want. Everyone's got the diversity, everyone's got the representation. We're not having no rush storylines. We're getting action on a regular basis. We're getting high stakes storylines. I'm a big fan of high stakes storylines and explosions. We're getting all of that. I don't even Eric and Nicole become interesting to me for the first time in years. And I'm like, I don't even I'm looking for something to say about Days, but I feel like we've gotten almost unique storylines with Paulina being the governor elect and this whole thing and the way they're moving storylines line. So it's like they finish one storyline and they slowly merge in the next storyline for that character without the character falling off. Because sometimes soaps do that. They write a great storyline for that person, and then it's like they don't know what else to do with you. So you got to stay in the corner and just come in and give cookies or something from time to time and give great advice, give stage advice from time to time. But it's like, no, they did it well because like Chanel's biggest storyline with Ali and Johnny and was the love triangle thing, and they figured that out. Now they're like, okay, now we're gonna give her something else. Like, and now this is gonna give Ali and Chanel another challenge to work through, which is good. It's good development. We had, Abe and Paulina go through the Price Town thing. Then after that, it was Lonnie going to jail. Then it was Paulina running for governor, and now it's Chanel getting elected. Like they just keep it going. They keep it going, and I'm like, this is actually good stuff. Like the way they developed it so well. So it's hard for me to find anything to say about it, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, I really can't. So we should probably just move on to the next one. I mean, let's be honest, they're doing stuff that the other soap operas should be following suit.
Yeah.
Which we're going to get into Y&R. So what do you think that they can sit there and fix the Y&R?
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, they have some good stuff, but what do you think?
Okay, I want you to start first. I want you to answer that first. That
That's a good one. Most of these stories are good so far. I'm liking Chelsea stuff. I'm liking the Diane stuff. Jack has, he's done some good stuff. He's actually transformed into the old Jack, which was great. You got Jeremy Starks and everything like that. There are some characters that is going by the wayside. And I was just to say this: Kyle and Summer.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
And here's the thing: as much as I don't like them, at least they're including them into this interesting storyline with Diane and Jeremy and stuff like that. So they're using them in a way that they're making these characters interesting. Because by themselves, I can't. But when they're in the main story with the other people, it's great.
The umbrella storyline.
So
Yep.
yeah, but then we get the characters like Mariah and Tess, which is just like, what are they doing with these characters?
You bring them up more than I do. I forgot about them, honestly. I forget about them every time. Like until you bring them up, I honestly forget that they're even characters on the canvas.
Yeah,
So,
because they don't have anything for them to do, and they're just there for, well, you know what it is for.
diversity purposes.
And that's the sad part. That is literally the sad part because they can do so much more with them. I heard that Mariah had an interesting storyline back when she got kidnapped and everything like that, and she had the baby and all the other stuff. But now it's like, what are they doing with her? Oh,
Yeah.
off screen. Oh, yeah, the woman decided not to give us a baby because reasons. So we're gonna try again. And then it's like, okay, and then what? What happens when we get the baby? That's like, that's it. Like that's like they
Like
don't
one
do.
thing they
They don't.
haven't done yet. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't
No,
know.
they don't really give them much of anything to do. And with Sharon, I feel like her character's wasted sometimes. Like unless somebody needs, to be shrunk or talking to her or whatever, she's just there at the cafe. Like she has some sort of, I don't know, invisible anklet bracelet on her wrist. Like she can't leave anywhere past society. So certain characters just getting wasted by you know and then you have Ali and Noah, and the only reason why they're actually interesting right now is because you have Audra. I mean, it's more interesting. But let's put it this way: if they were at 0, then they might be at a 1 because Audra.
Okay, okay, I'll give it that. I'll give it that.
You know,
Okay.
because they're throwing in somebody else. It's the same thing with Sean and Bella. A lot of times, it's not interesting. You throw Jan Spears into it. Okay, we got to make them interesting. Let's throw Jan Spears into it. And I feel like it's going to be. I feel like it's the same thing with Noah and Ali.
Looking at that, this is the formula they do with Noah every year on the show is that they bring him in. He comes in from Paris and he did some art and some Machiavellian and Michael D'Angelo stuff. And then he gets into some new venture somehow, and Nick loans him the money. And he has a girlfriend, but then a secret girlfriend pops up from. So this is like I swear to you, this is like the third time they've done this. People, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I swear this is like the third time they've done this. Mariah and Tessa with them. I knew when everyone's like, oh my god, they're getting married, yay! And I'm like, yay, I'm not gonna get no storyline after this, so y'all better enjoy it, yay! So you're gonna get yay! Because I already knew how Ryan and Mariah was gonna be. Because if you look at Chanel and Alec, what they're getting, they're getting stuff past them just being, they're getting written material that goes beyond them just being a diverse couple. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And Mariah and Tessa, like, okay, even on YNR, they haven't had Mariah meet Daniel yet. And I'm going to tell you the significance of that, if you don't already know, is that Mariah is a twin sister of Cassie who died at like when she was a kid or something because Daniel took her out on the road and they got killed in the car. She got killed in the car crash, the car that Daniel was driving. So Daniel needs to see Mariah, who is a twin sister of Cassie. Like, I don't know why that hasn't happened yet, because that'll be a monumental moment. Maybe it did, and I was sleeping or something. I don't know, but that's something that hasn't happened yet. And he's on canvas. I'm like, this is the time to do it, guys. Like, he has to meet Mariah, and I feel like that'd be a great thing because now he'll be facing his demons again. Like, oh my god, like I killed her twin sister in that car crash, and and I remember when Nick tried to beat him up at that time, because Cassie was like a daughter to Nick. Well, she was his daughter, a stepdaughter, but it was a daughter. And to me, it was just like that is a mark they missed. Now, Kyle and Summer, I actually find them I do find them remotely interesting. I have to say this because of the Diane thing. Diane thing was the best thing for them to put back on the show. It was the best thing for them to bring back on the show because it's crazy. We're supposed to be hating Diane, but I just come to just loving her all the way through. Sharon, you're right. She's a coffee shop therapist. And if I was a new viewer watching the show, I would honestly think that I would never think that Sharon had a storyline where she was married to Victor and burned down the Newman Ranch. Like, I would never think these things if I was a new viewer coming in just because of what I'm seeing, or that she pushed Phyllis down the staircase and Phyllis is in a coma for about a year. I wouldn't think these things, or that Sharon fell off a cliff with Drusilla in 2006. Like, you wouldn't think Sharon had these storylines based on what we're seeing now. And it's like once they killed off Ray, she's just retired now, all the way becoming a coffee shop therapist. But other than that, I have to say Weiner's been stepping it up. I'm with Abby Devon, the Tucker McCall thing, the Jeremy Stark storyline. Because before I wouldn't have anything good to say about Weiner, but now they've really stepped it up. They've
Yeah.
really stepped it up, really has. So yeah.
So we go into B&B. Now we're gonna start with you first.
This is my thing of B&B. Brooke, I almost said Book. Brooke has been propped up for so many years on this show, and it's been torture because I've been watching this since 06 play out. And at that time I was watching 06, people were complaining about watching that play out since 87. So this is like now a total of almost like 40 years or probably past that of watching this play out in B&B. I want to see better balance on the show. I want to see more well-balanced storylines, different types of storylines. I want to see more of that on B&B, and I have yet to see that. It got better. You see, I wish you were watching when the Avons were on. You would see the contrast so well. You would just, this is why I was encouraged to go back and watch those past clips so you can see what we're talking about. We're not crazy, But B&B to me, I mean, when we have a good storyline, they drop it so quick. When Paris came on and they gave her a whole promo, oh, she's the new chick in town. It's Paris. They did all that stuff. And Wayne Brady was the dad that was acting psycho. I don't know if you know Wayne Brady was on B&B. Yeah, he played boyfriend of he's Paris's father. He's Paris's father, and he played Taylor's boyfriend at the time, her psycho boyfriend who switched the babies with this like a year and a half ago or so, 2 years ago. Wayne Brady was on. They brought him on because that name, but Wayne Brady was good. He was good on B&B. That was good, but it's like when Paris came on, it was supposed to be her and Zendaya, and they quickly dropped that and put her with Carter, which that was weird because it was like watching a big brother and his little sister, literally. Because I didn't get a couple from them. It was awkward. And then we get the whole, gosh, I'm trying to think, like, the Thomas thing is coming along. It's coming along slowly. It's coming along. B&B, I feel like they're trying to clean up their mess. So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. But what I would say for them to do differently is more well-rounded storylines and make Brooke a matriarch. See her making peace with Taylor. We need this because we don't need you guys to keep fighting about the same thing over and over again. This would be the equivalent of like Leslie and Monica still fighting over Rick Weber on GH. That would be the equivalent of us still seeing that today. And at this point, they've gotten over that, which they should. It's been 40 years. We don't want to keep watching the same thing. So I would like them to take the vets and turn them into these patriarchal figures of the soap that's necessary. I would prefer that at this point instead of seeing the same thing play out. So that's what I would want, and more newer generation storylines, and not just like you're taking the storylines to the next generation, but you're playing out the same thing. Like we'll Hope, Liam, and Steffi love triangle that went out for a while. I want to see something different with that. So yeah, what about you? And I came with a
lot. Well, no. I mean, that's good. That's good. It makes sense. You've been watching the show longer than me. I've only been watching for about like 2 years. And I don't think the show is bad. It could be a bit cartoonish, a bit laughable sometimes. And, I mean, even when you go back to the whole Bill Spencer thing and him putting on the chain and, him crying and doing all this other stuff like that. And I'm just like, bro, this is why I can't take this so seriously. But it's also why I have the most fun doing reviews on it because it's so comical. I don't see the thing about this show is that it's a different energy than the other three.
Yeah,
And granted, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes I would sit there and feel like maybe the show needs to be a bit longer. And I only say that because sometimes it's like by the time they get to anything, it's only 18 minutes. So by the time they get to anything, it's done. And then you got to sit there and wait to the next day for them to start to get to something. I feel like sometimes I feel like sometimes even with the episodes, like you'll watch it and they'll start BS talking about something, and then they'll get to the point, and then it's like, all right, well, we got like 3 minutes left. Well, I guess they could sit there and watch it tomorrow. And that's when they start something. So then you guys then go to Tuesday to get something more out of it. So sometimes I just feel like it's just like they don't have enough time to do even a proper day story. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Let me say this, and thank you, Hippie Gypsy. I appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let me say this. B&B has more than enough time. I know that's the guy that they're trying to put us under, that we only have 20 minutes and it's 30 minutes. We have 20 minutes of actual time with us showing the show. They have plenty of time to actually tell the story right. And the reason why I say that is because soaps historically were 30 minutes when they started, right? They had 30 minutes to tell the story. And I watch international soaps. I talk about all the time. Their format is 30 minutes. So B&B will never change that format because they're broadcasting international countries and for that time slot. But I watch international soaps and they can tell a story in 30 minutes for that day. They can do what they want to. They can tell that in 30 minutes. And the thing is with B&B is that they're doing this on purpose. Like how you say, oh, it's like I feel like I have to watch the next day. That's what they're trying to do, even though they really don't deserve that next day from you sometimes. Sometimes they don't deserve the next day. That's why B&B, I tell you, I could not watch it for weeks and then hop in and like it's as if it's as if I'd never left. I haven't even watched these past 2 days. I can still catch up with you guys. There's not much that I'm really missing. Well, I did watch the scene where Bill was begging Kate, and I loved it. I loved every moment. I was like, yeah, that's right. You better beg. What you do, you better beg. But anyways, I feel like in a sense, I sympathize with Katie. I've been where she's at before. And when that happens, you got to relish in it, okay? When the ex treats you bad, they begging you back, you got to relish in the moment. You don't show it. When you go home, you celebrate. But what I'm trying to make is that, like, sometimes that they have to, they can challenge themselves to tell a story in that 20 minutes. They're just choosing not to. They're really choosing, because I'm watching even classic soaps of like Another World, that stuff, and their format was only 30 minutes, and they're telling so much story in those 20 minutes. Like it's like blink and you miss it. Whereas maybe you can blink and you won't miss nothing for 5 weeks.
yeah.
So
So they're just bad at telling stories then.
I think so, and I think that Brad Bell, he knows the international audience loves it. So he says, "Oh, we don't do
Mob shooting stories.
or gun shoots. That's a general hospital thing." He literally said, "That's for general hospital. We don't do that type of stuff." But how cool would it have been if there was a serial killer killing off the Forrester models, and there was a fashion show where where the biggest victim got killed or attacked, at least maybe Brooke or somebody or Hope, and it was revealed to be somebody on campus. Like, they've never had a serial killer mystery, and if they did that, that would be historic at this point. You know what I mean? Like, why not try something new? And that's kind of my problem. They don't really try new stuff on this show. They just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Like a serial killer storyline would be amazing. It would be like I said, killing off the Forrester models, and then how on every time on B&B when there's a fashion show, they have the person who shows like the showstopper, the main dress of the night, and that person gets murdered, and it's a big. You see, and something like that would just be better than me watching this whole Sheila thing. Sheila's toe. She cut off her toe. She's still alive. Like, it sounds stupid even just hearing that. Like, this sounds so stupid. I don't think Passions was even that ridiculous. I mean, Passions was over the top, but maybe because of Passions, we expected that from Passions. We know that they were trying to do that, whereas B&B is not trying to do that. So when they're coming up over the top, it's not a good look. Well, that's not what your intention was. That was the intention. So, but that's what I think that they could do better. So when you're talking about that, I think they could tell the story in 18 minutes. They just choose not to.
That's a shame. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like they're doing it because, well, it works. It works internationally. So why fix something that's not broken as far as money wise is concerned?
Right. Exactly. So for them, it's like, why, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And that's how those actors are able to get their $1 million salaries and go to Monaco for the show, and they're able to go all those trips. They're not about to mess up that money machine for y'all. So y'all can keep complaining. Brad Bell does not care. His mortgage is getting paid.
That is definitely true. Well, I mean,
how y'all mess that up?
Well, I was just going to say that I do hope moving forward next year that these soap operas start to improve, because the one thing that Days have taught or should have been telling all these other soap operas is that no one's safe. Y'all can get it too. Y'all can get off the air and just like that. And Days, they were supposed to have a longer contract with the studio, and he yanked them with the quickness. But they were smart enough to sit there and go on Peacock. And from what I understand, that they're doing great. But it's one of those things where it's like it's a lesson.
You know what I'm
And
waiting for? Let me tell you what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the day before April 1st, 2023, where I wake up in the morning and I see JLJ Media is on a live and his live says GH is ending after 60 years. I'm waiting for that live to come. I'm waiting for that title to come with one of James' lives. I'm waiting for it because I'm telling you right now, GH ain't safe either. They're acting like it's like
yeah,
GH to me is acting like that person who's in the relationship that is in denial the relationship is going downhill. It's like everybody else can see it but them. And like, no, we're fine. We're still fine. Like, no, we've been together all these years. So we're fine. Like everything's fine. The kids are fine. We're fine too. What do you mean? Yeah. Charlie don't come home at night, but everything's fine. They still love me. That's GH. That's GH right now. Now, Days on their hand is like the opposite, where Days like, okay, you know what? I know you're not coming home at night. That's it. We're gonna pack our bags and go. I'm gonna do better for me, myself, my kids. That's Days. Okay, that's Days, all right. Jake's like, no, we're fine. Yeah, they don't come home every night. They still love me though. I still love you, right? That's GH. That's GH. It's kind of like just to give a quick aside, it's kind of like that movie Diary of a Mad Black Woman, where the woman thought her husband loved her so much, and in the end he just served her with the divorce papers. So that's GH right now. That's GH at the moment. They don't know that that's coming. So I'm waiting for Jail Jimmy to have that live. I'm waiting to wake up to it.
and it's sad too because
breaking news, Access Hollywood.
and that's and it's funny too. Well, it's not even funny. It's more like that's why I hope it doesn't get to that point because I don't want to sit there and say the show has been going downhill, but it's definitely not where it used to be at.
Yeah.
It's definitely not where it used to be at as far as storytelling, as far as making you feel like you can't wait for the next episode. It doesn't give me that feel. It gives me more of that. I've been watching it for years, so I'm just used to watching it. So I mean, hopefully next year they start to step it up. They start to step it up because if they don't, we may sit there and wind up getting a video like that from James.
Because even when the scene where Holly was on fire and Robert goes, Holly, Holly, Holly. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, the people making these forgot to put the barbecue sauce in the bag. It wasn't that Holly was on fire. That scene just did not do it for me. But they did forget that barbecue sauce, and that was a travesty.
See, for that scene, it was laughable. I laughed so hard. I could not take that scene seriously. And when every time he kept yelling, I just laughed even harder. Because I felt like it was so cartoonish. It was like I felt like I was watching an episode of Family Guy or something. I'm like, I can't be watching soap opera, right?
It wasn't like the episode of Family Guy where Stewie would say, "This is worse than the time when I was on fire." It was just a cutaway scene.
And then the sad part is that they're just standing there watching this chick on fire, and like, so no one's gonna do anything,
right?
And then after a while, it's like they were like, "Oh, we got a fire extinguisher. Maybe we should sit there and put it out." And then that's what they did. And I'm just like, so y'all just sat there and watched this chick burn for like 20-something seconds, and no one thought about doing anything.
The whole CCP just stood around as if, like, hey, they didn't specify in our contracts we had to play firefighter too, so we're just gonna sit this one out, guys.
On top of the fact that they had a whole camp just set out, just waiting there, like y'all built that whole thing kind of fast, like
just watching Holly go in flames, Holly. And honestly, I knew Holly was gonna be alive, but the one good thing they did do was Miss Wu being behind it. But then there was no follow-up. And then we do get the follow-up. It's going to be weeks from now. We already forgot about it. Because here's the thing. This whole Holly even coming in and this whole Victor Castine, people seem to forget the whole initial purpose of the storyline was what happened to Luke. We've forgotten, and this is my thing with GH. They start a storyline and they'll continue it through, but they forget what was the initial purpose of the storyline and what we were trying to do. It was since April. What happened to Jennifer Smith and Luke? That was the initial point of all this and figuring out what Victor was up to. Now it's like, oh, what is Victor up to? And it has nothing to do with this. Now it's about Holly and Holly coming in. Her twin sister was murdered or whatever by Victor. I'm like, what? Like, what is this?
Yeah. They definitely lost focus. They definitely lost sight of that. And like I said,
I mean, did you remember that?
Nope. I totally forgot about that. I literally did, as I was sitting there watching, I didn't even think about that until you just said something. You just said something now, and that happened. How long ago was dealing with that Holly stuff?
God, that was like, because the Luke stuff started back in April, March. We're now in December. So that's April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That's 9 months. That's a whole pregnancy. So I mean, they completely forgot about that, and it's like, I get a drop storyline, but like drop the whole thing then of why guys messed, because that was the whole premise of why we're investigating Victor. And Mr. I've adjusted to Mr. Sheffield as Victor. I've really much adjusted to him, Mr. Sheffield. Mr. Sheffield from The Nanny. I've adjusted to him now. It's weird because when he's on Days, I just think of him as Shane Donovan, but when he's on GH, I just think of him as Mr. Sheffield. But I've adjusted to him. But that storyline of where was Luke, and everyone's like, oh no, Luke is alive. Luke is alive. Now it's like writers don't care, and that's the problem. Like even the whole Miss Wu thing, Miss Wu was brought on. We thought like something was going to happen between her and Brad, or something was going to go out, or maybe he was going to be revealed to be Miss Wu's son. Dropped it. Now she's working the Holly thing. It's just so random.
And then on top of that, I mean, you guys have to remember, what happened with that drink that Victor drank? Remember that? That dude Smith there walking around, just chilling with Ava, talking about, oh, I feel so bad that, you and my nephew are broken up. Bro, you should feel bad about whatever was in that drink. Remember that drink that you had? It was like weeks ago. So we just gonna act like that just didn't happen, right? Like
now this Marshall and they're gonna say the Marshall and Portia and Curtis reveals for till February. We gotta wait till February, and we already know what's gonna happen. Trina's gonna be feeling the hurt, and then this is gonna push her back into Spencer's arms. I could just see it now. And this person's like, Trina, are you okay? Are you okay, Trina? Rory was my best friend too, and I missed him too. And I'm like, I just know it's gonna happen. I can see it now. Which for me, I just feel like Portia could have told Curtis, and then I guess maybe we're gonna find out if Marshall really did have the illness or not. And because like I said, we all saw when Portia was trying to investigate him more, Marshall's get that look like you better shout, you better mind your business. You gotta get that business. You gotta get that look like you better mind your business, little girl. Mind your business. Even though Portia's a girl, but Marshall's a lot older. He's like, but mind your business, little girl. You gotta get that look. Even that look on the elevator before he got on. But I mean, they're clearly gonna drag that out until February, and that's gonna push Spencer and Trina back together. It's hard to root for. I'm not gonna go on that. It's just I don't want the Sabrina fans coming for me. They're a whole mafia chain, and I don't think I'm ready.
Oh, I'm ready. No, the hell with that. I was just gonna say, no one gets spared the rod on my channel. No one.
When she was crying over Rory, God, why did this happen to him? I'm like, you were just about to break up with him and just keep it moving,
Exactly. That was part of the problem. That disloyal part was just part of the problem. And then it was the fake tears. That was another part of the problem. And then it was the fact that, well, why should we care about Rory? They had over 3 months to sit there and develop this character. Now he's dead, and I'm supposed to care.
Like, why did he go after the file? Like, what was the reason behind that? I didn't get that. I guess where they're trying to allude that he was trying to play hero and capture this person for Trina on behalf of the PC, because I mean you're just a junior cop, you know what I mean? And my thing is, and listen, I know this is so bad to suspend reality, but he clearly shot the hook before the hook hooked him. We heard the gunshot go out first before the hook hooked him. He shot the hook, but then the hook.
Well, somebody got shot. Maybe it was the dude that was on the floor. That's name shall not be mentioned because they didn't bother to get their mention on.
And Dante just happened to be outside because I guess he caught an Uber on the way or something.
He got there fast, didn't he?
Yeah, he got there pretty fast. You know, I don't know if he teleported, you know, or what happened for 40 years in the future from GH, but he got there pretty fast. It was giving Doctor Who.
So yeah, I think in general, for the most part, at least three of the soap operas definitely need to sit there and step up their game. Days is doing good, so I really don't actually have any complaints about Days. Why not for the most part is definitely, they got a couple of characters they need to work on, but for the most part, Why Not has actually stepped up. So I don't really have too many issues with that.
And they just did it like instantaneously. I was proud of them. I'm like, okay, like what do we do to deserve this? I mean, we do deserve it, but
Yeah, we've been deserved that, and it's at a point where it's like, and I've said this before, as far as like when it okay become the new normal, you know.
when was the last time? Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, what was you going to sit there and say?
I was saying, when was the last time you felt like GH was not just okay, but it was great? Like a time period. After the Guza days, though. After the Guza days. You can't include anything from the Guza days and prior.
Okay, when is the Guza days end?
I want to say they ended around 2010. So anything from like 2010 to like present day. What was a good time period for that? I want to make it challenging for you.
I think I actually stopped watching it for a little bit for like at least 2 or 3 years. So yeah. But I gotta sit there and say when Billy came over as Jason, I did start to like it. I did. Even when he was not there, like doing an investigation with Curtis, as far as trying to find out who was the bomb, who was the person that made the bomb that killed. What was that kid's name? What was one of Sonny's kids' names?
Morgan.
I thought that was pretty interesting, especially those two pairing up to sit there and do it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah, I would sit there and say that stuff was pretty interesting. I don't think it was super great, but I thought it was interesting. Now, and they didn't bring in Valentine stuff, and say they had some good stuff. They did. They had some good stuff.
I'd have to say the One Life to Live years, and honestly, probably okay. Let me rephrase that: the Carvelotti years, because this was after One Life to Live people left. But just seeing the way he wrote when he had Silas's nephew Rafe on, and Rafe was dating Molly, and it was a love triangle to him and TJ and Molly. Seeing that was on Heather Weber. It was a good time to be alive on GH. It was a good time to be alive. But the problem was that I don't feel like GH was set up for his writing. Like the writing he's doing on Days, I just don't think that worked for GH. I just don't think that worked for GH and their audience. And that's why he got fired. And that's why I just didn't click. And that's why, people felt like the ratings was going even more under, because even though Days is on streaming, it's the strongest soap. Even though they were in the chopping block, they're still the strongest soap in my eyes. And I think it's because of his writing. He knows how to write for these characters. But on GH, it just wasn't set up that same way. For whatever reason, it just didn't work. And I feel like mainly probably because he had his own idea in mind of how he's originally going to do it. And One Life to Live people came on, and there was obviously the lawsuit, and that didn't work. But on Days, it's just, I knew when he came to Days, he was going to whip the show back into shape. And I think it was smart that they went to Peacock and before they got kicked from TV. They got to leave on their own terms.
That just on a side note, that does bring an interesting theory. And granted, this doesn't really have a lot to do with soaps, but what you said as far as Carvelotti and why it didn't work, because stuff was set up beforehand. Now, I know this is kind of off topic, and I'll sit there and keep this brief, but, this has a lot to do with James Gunn and him just rebooting the whole DCEU, because I guess he feels like the stuff that was already in place doesn't work for him. And so, granted, he wants to then come up with his own ideas, and he doesn't like the certain visions that was already set beforehand. A lot of people are pissed off about it. And I guess my only thing is that he should close out what the original director wanted for that universe to go before he decides to just reboot it, because I guess I feel like it's in a lot of ways it's disrespecting the people who's already got caught on to that story, if that made sense. But I only bring it up because, as he was saying before, as far as Carvelotti, his writing didn't work because the stuff that was already set up, it was, You know what I'm saying? They're saying like it wasn't set up for him to actually have it much to work with.
And you know, to add to that too is with both the things you were saying, even with the DC stuff you were saying too, um, that probably happened because when directors and writers come on, they only have a certain amount of time to put their stank on it, you know, put their mark on the thing and make it theirs. They only have a certain amount of time to do that, and some of them can be very territorial about their work. Because I remember mentioning this in one of James' lives, how I noticed on soaps, it's never the executive producer and the writer that gets blamed at the same time. It's usually one that gets blamed or the other. Like at GH, we're not blaming the writers, funny enough, we're blaming the EP, right? On Days, if anything goes wrong, we're blaming Carvalati. We're not blaming the EP. You know, the EP on Days has been there since he was born, literally. And then on YNR, I think we're blaming the writer, not the EP. And then on B&B. Well, B&B, I think the writer and the EP is the same person on B&B. They're one of the same. Brad Bell Jr. So even looking at that, and just like you mentioned with the DC like comics that they have the new director, I think he said his name was Tim Gunn.
James Gunn.
James Gunn. You know, I get him coming in, especially to something as huge as that. But however, I think in that case, because I know a little bit about superheroes, I know a little bit. He probably should have finished it out first, then come in, because you can't just come in like it's a new regime and you're just gonna just wipe everything out like that. That's because Carvalati. I don't feel like Carvalati did that, but I feel like things were just so strongly set up in the fabrics of JJ's character that he couldn't make them unwoven like that. See, One Night to Live was his favorite show growing up. So it made sense he was able to really write for that show well when the time came. But with GH, it's like GH is not known for diversity or those kind of things, or you know, sentimental dialogues. It's never been like that. I mean, you have your moments, but if you think about even from the days of Luke and Laura, they were jumping off airplanes and stuff like that, whatever, you know? So it was never really like that. Even though it's ironic because their most biggest and hugest episode was based on a sentimental moment, which was a wedding. I know, irony of it all. But that's not what Jade was known for. Like, YNR is not known for fast, high-paced storylines. It doesn't mean they can't change the direction, but they're not known for that. And so because Jade was not known for that, I feel like he couldn't make his foundation in there. Now, when it comes to the comic books you mentioned with DC, that guy should leave things how they are, finish it out. If I know anything about superhero fans, he needs to finish that out. From what I know, got to finish that out. But with soap fans, I feel like it's different because they're used to the changing theme songs. Everything is always changing. It's part of the rhythm. It's part of the rhythm. There's a little bit of tradition, but there's a rhythm that can be changed, and I feel like that should be explored. Hey, Leopardus.
How you doing, Leopardus?
So that's what I feel like they could have done differently. Like with B&B, that's what I'm saying. I want to see B&B even as a soap explore something new, but I think Brad's like, so I think B&B is like the DC Comics of the soap world. They can't change it because they've got all those international fans that cannot piss off, and they can't afford to lose right now. And I think because they know that soaps are just like such a slippery slope right now, they're not even going to try to play that game. They're not going to, and it sucks because they're not going to challenge themselves then, you know? And I feel like as soap writers, they should challenge themselves like, okay, how can we tell a compelling story? How can we tell that next big story? And I feel like they don't have that anymore. Well, B&B doesn't because they have the international money. Now, Days is like, we got to do that because we don't have nothing to be comfortable on. So, and that's one of the good things when you're at the bottom, you have no choice but to challenge yourself. You can only go up from there. You can only go up from that point forward. So.
I mean, yeah, no, very, very good point. Now, I think for the most part, we did kind of cover pretty much all the soaps.
We did.
But before we do go, how do I sit there and phrase this? You've been doing this soap opera stuff for a while, right? Like what, 2 years now? 2 or 3 years?
2 years.
So
almost 2 years actually. Yeah. 2 years. 2 years.
What kind of suggestions would you give for somebody that's coming in that wants to
do a channel?
That wants to sit there and do a channel, like, you know, even a soap opera channel or whatever. Like what kind of things would you sit there and suggest for this person to do? Yeah, to give advice.
For soap consecration, whether it's a channel or a podcast or any of those things, I think my biggest suggestion is like, one, be yourself. That's one biggest thing. Be you. Don't regurgitate anything else. But also at the same time, I think another suggestion that I would give to somebody is figure out how you want to structure your channel. Like, think about when you watch other people's channels, what it is you wish you would want to see, right? And bring that to you. So I'm not saying everybody has to be so unique and super stand out, but everybody has their thing that we know them for. So it's kind of like when I think of us even as the soap content creators, I think of us as the big nine. When I say the big nine, I think of like the big nine soaps that were on back in 06, where everybody had a distinct style, right? Like JoJo has a distinct style, right? It's a distinct style, right? Candace Mack has a distinct style, right? Max of
Of course, Candace Mack is in the chat.
Oh, yeah, she snuck in to listen. She snuck in to listen. By the way, Candace, we gotta talk about that recap y'all did with Isaac on Forever and a Day. I gotta talk about that. Y'all just slip that in. But everyone has to have a unique style. And not a unique style, but like everyone has to like find that niche for themselves. That's what I would say for them. What about you? What would you say?
One, I would sit there and say have fun. I would sit there and say have fun. Above all else, have fun. Don't just sit there and look at the numbers. Don't just sit there and look at the numbers because, to be honest, sometimes the numbers can be depressing. They can be. Let's just be honest, they can be. Especially when you sit there and compare your numbers to somebody else who's doing the same similar thing.
Right.
So if you're having fun, that stuff is just going to come eventually.
Can I add to that? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Please don't.
I was gonna add to that because yes, one, definitely have fun. I would also say, like, when you talk about the numbers, I remember in the beginning the numbers used to really like, I'm like, dang, I ain't making no numbers, I'm not making this. But one thing I have to say is that, like, yes, people are coming for the soap content creator, and Samuel had a point. Definitely know your soap, know you want to talk about. So people are coming for the review, but they come for the review, but they stay for you. No pun intended with the rhyme. But they do. They come for the review and they stay for you. That's what they're staying for. And that's what people are going to be drawn to, and just have fun with it. Even for me, like, I'm able to come on like once every week sometimes, but like, when I'll come on, it's a party, we're having a fun time. I'm on your live out where I see your lives. It's like we're having a blast, or JLJ Media. It feels fun. And I think that's really important. You want to feel fun. You want to feel the opinion. You want to have the laughs. You want to have the moments when you're watching. Samuel said, know the soap history. Yes, people got to know the soap history. But, you got to have the laughs. You got to have that stuff. So I definitely agree with you. But go ahead. I just want to add that in there. Go ahead.
No. And again, that makes sense. And like Samuel says, know your history. But, again, it comes down to having fun. It also comes down to just, being honest. Listen, at the end of the day, you want to sit there and give your opinion. You can't just sit there and placate and be like, oh, I'm afraid to sit this because I'm going to bother this group, or I'm going to, I'm going to piss off this person. Because at the end of the day, it's an opinion, and you know how opinions are. You say something, somebody else doesn't like it, they're going to be like, F you this, and you're this, and you're that. You got to sit there and just be honest. If you don't like a character, it's okay not to like a character. You don't like the particular episode, say it. Just be honest.
I agree. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's what I was going to sit there and say. Just be honest,
I agree with you. I think that, like, because everybody, y'all know, if y'all come to my channel, y'all know it's going to be a Nina love fest for the most part. We stand 10 toes down for Nina Reeves, future Mrs. Sunny Corinthos. But no. I'm just playing. But honestly, I agree with you. Just having fun, giving that different opinion, giving that different outlook. Like, even sometimes when I'm watching your channel, like, I'll be having laughs, like, what days they said the Big Mama reference, or and like, even when I'm listening to Candace or James, all these different people out there, listen to their different points of view. And I agree, just giving your opinion, your opinion, what you think, right? Like, for example, I always say I don't consider primetime soaps to be soaps; they're primetime dramas, right? And I stand 10 toes down on that, whatever, or have 10 toes down for Nate, and leaving Elena, or whatever. But it's all in fun, and I think it's the biggest thing that I would say to people that are doing this. And find what's going to be the right structure for you. Find what's going to be the right balance for you, and make sure it's going to have fun. It shouldn't. I feel like something like this, even if it is a job for someone, it shouldn't feel like a job. That's how I feel personally. This should be like something you can just like. How for me, sometimes I go on, I'm doing my lives. It feels therapeutic for me. Like I'm just like focused on the soap world. I focus on fictional people and their problems.
Exactly.
You know, it's a break from modern reality, because this is one of the reasons I love doing soap channel. I'm not talking about like celebrities, which are like real life people. These are soap characters. I can go in on them all that I want to. You know, I don't get up too deep with the personal actors and what they got going on, or who they voted for this week, or what happened, or what they posted on Instagram the next week, or whatever. But you know, of course, we do talk about some real life stuff from time to time. But I mean, I just love it. And I knew when I started this channel that this was going to be the thing I was going to be able to be consistent with, because out of everything in my life, I've been consistent with what the most is watching soaps. I can honestly say.
Now, Sandra actually brought up a good point as far as, doing shows that you enjoy, as opposed to
Right.
doing shows that's super popular just because it's popular. So he
Yes.
he bring, he brings a great point. Like I love talking about these soaps because I love doing soaps. Find something that you love doing, and it'll be a lot easier. You
I
know.
agree. Because that's the thing. Like when you actually enjoy the thing, like I could talk about soaps for days. Like as I was a kid, I always wish there was someone to talk soaps with, like, because I could never find them. You know. So it's like finally it's all come full circle for me. Whatever. But it's like you can talk for days about it. Like you know what I mean. Um, and I agree with that. You gotta like find something that's not so much so popular, but that you love to talk about. You know that you can talk about, you can bring it. You know what I'm saying? That's how you're able to come on 5 days a week and you doing it
Yeah,
live and you doing this, you know?
because it doesn't feel like a job. It just feels like you're just hanging out with your friends and just having a good time talking.
It really does. It really does. Like when I go to James Live, I feel like I'm walking into Anthony Zaccar's house. I'm just gonna have a good time. I gotta see what's gonna happen. But no, it feels like you're just gonna have a good time, you're gonna laugh. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you're like, okay, really, James, we're doing this again. It's like you're having a fun time doing this. Like when people come on my live, like really DC, you doing this again. But then we all laugh, having a great time. It's fun. And I think that's necessary. I think that's the most important part about it, you know. So yeah.
Now, one thing I will sit there and say is don't overpromise but underdeliver. Don't do more than what you can realistically do. And this is something that you've said before, as far as like when you first started, you want to sit there and try to do it 5 days a week, and you were just like, yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. And you did something where you were able to sit there and communicate with your followers, with your audience, whatever, as far as what you can do, what you can't do, and you established that, and it works. It works for you. It works for your audience. You have a great time doing it.
Yeah, yeah, it made it a lot more easier. I mean, I think this is probably going to be the week where I'm going to try to come back and do regular reviews and do a live. We'll see how that works. I might do one review. I ain't making no promises, y'all. So don't hold me to nothing. I don't know. But you're right, because in the beginning I was like, I want to do 5 days a week, and I was like, oh, this isn't gonna work. This is not gonna work. I can't do 5 days a week. So then I was like doing once a week on the weekends, and I remember one point in time, like I was in a rhythm on the weekend. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do all 7 posts that I watch. I'm gonna do all that, and I was like, that's not gonna work either. So I had a structure where I set it up where my predominant soaps I would report on is GH and Days, because there was obviously the most to talk about. That might just change now because YNR is taking center stage. So I don't know. I don't know about you, don't know, GH, I don't know. But what I do is the structure I kind of have now in my mind is um, every week or every other week, either will be a live or a review or a mixture of both. So you're always gonna get something coming out from me, something, because but that was most realistic for me. So you're right. People got to do what's going to work for them and not just what you see everybody else do. Because everybody else that's doing something a certain way, they're doing it because that's what works for them. That's what they can do and that's what they can execute on. Because you do 4 soaps alive, and the live goes on for 2 hours. So we're really talking about, and your reviews are like what, 20 minutes
Oh,
long
pretty much,
each?
yeah.
So
Hmm.
we're talking about a good 3 to 4 hours that you're dedicating per day,
Yeah,
5 days a week. So I understand why you need the Sundays off.
yeah.
I get why you need the
Sundays and
Sundays
Saturdays,
off.
yeah.
Sundays are holidays,
Hmm.
So and that takes a lot of skill, because I think you're the only person doing it in that structure. Like literally all 4 soaps every day, and Alive, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
I think you're the only person who's doing it with that exact format. Because there's obviously other soap reviewers that are doing all 4 soaps every day, and then some that are just doing it every day, like Rock TV, of course. But no one, I don't think, is doing, like I said, with you, all 4 soaps and Alive every day, Monday through Friday. So kudos.
Yeah. Thank you. It's not easy, but it's fun. So it doesn't feel like it's grinding. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't feel like it's work. It doesn't stress me out. Where it's like, like there's been some days where it's like, you know what, I can't sit there and do a day's review. But during my live, I'll sit there and talk about it. I'll watch it, and if somebody wants to sit there and come and talk about it, we can do that. So I always make sure that I watch all 4. So in case I don't do a review, come through the chat, we'll sit there and talk about it.
Yeah, because I mean, when you get a chance to come on these lives, I mean, I think you doing lives took it to the next level, inspired me. I was like, oh, he's doing some lives, I'm inspired. So doing that, being able to connect with the subscribers on a level where we're just chatting, like I said, you just feel like you're just hanging out with friends, like you're just hanging out, you're just having a good time, have some conversation. And it's really enjoyable. I think, yeah, like I said, it's really enjoyable to do like this. So seeing you do it, you got to 1,000 subscribers, now you're here, y'all EJ Demir out here.
Right, man, trying.
Giving Demir Enterprises.
And it's funny because we all inspire each other in some ways. Like Brock inspired me to do soap reviews. James inspired me to sit there and do lives. We inspired Jakaris to sit there and do his channel. So I think it's really interesting. We always learn from each other and stuff like that.
We do. Because I remember when I first started, I was like, is there even an audience for soap reviews? But then I Googled, not Googled, like YouTube, and I saw you and Brock came up first. And I was like, okay. I was like, so there's an audience, okay. There's an audience out here. And I mean, there was always an audience. You just got to search a little bit deeper. The audience is there. Yeah. The audience is there. Like there's like 20,000 people now do this, right? The audience is there. But when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is great. I want to do this. And, just being able to do, like, I did a collab with you, Judge Media, Rock TV, even the interview with the GH director, all that stuff. I never even thought that none of that stuff would come to play, honestly. When I started this, I was like, okay, let's just see how it goes. Let's see if people like it. I don't know. This is YouTube. I don't know how this is going to go. Let's just see, how it is. And I remember when you promoted me the day one. So, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
Of course. And one, I did it because I believed in you and I believed in your channel.
Right.
Because, you know what I'm saying? You were funny, you knew what you were talking about, and you were interesting. So I had to sit there and promote you on that alone. And of course, when I first started, Brock TV, promoted me on his channel.
Right.
And he didn't have to do that.
Right.
So I always feel like it's, and, we sit there and we promote, Jakaris and his channel and stuff like that. So James does it as well. Like, we'll sit there and butt heads. But at the end of the day, this guy is probably the most supportive person in the soap opera commentary community.
Yeah.
As far as supporting other channels. So I always sit there and give him respect for that.
and it's a lot of I always feel like it's a lot of love, a lot of support. I mean, I don't know how it is on the social media platforms. I can't speak about them. But it's, YouTube, how we do things over here. How we do things over here, all right? It's been very supportive, and I appreciate that. Like, everyone just kind of supported one another and the constant promoting. So it's amazing to see that. It's really amazing to see that.
It's fun. We got a lot of new people that's coming on as far as, soap opera channels and stuff like that. Jakaris. And of course, I was not there telling you about why in our chat.
Yes, they're one of the legends. They're one of the veterans.
Yeah, she's been doing it for 8-7 years.
It's just like, because I thought Brock TV was the longest one next to Nancy Drew 37, but we have another one. I'm like, what else is out there? I feel like this is like this. I feel like this is almost like on a soap where one of the characters found out they have a long lost parent that's alive from the dead or something.
Exactly. Exactly.
I was like, wow, she's been doing this since like 2008. She deserves her flowers.
Exactly.
That girl deserves her flowers. She's been doing this since 2008. I was like, wow.
And of course, you have Lanikia. She also does the 4 soap operas and stuff like that. Sometimes she does live. So you got a lot of people That's what they're doing. This, Jay's 10th floor. Jay's Sunday shift, 10th floor, and everything like that. Dion's corner. You got a ton of people, more
Mission
people than I can
days.
sit Exactly. Exactly.
Like, everybody's bringing something. Like everybody has such this unique element to the way they're doing their reviews, which I absolutely just love. Because like I said, I remember back in the day, I would like, well, even now, even I would say back in the day. When I say back in the day, I'm saying like even from a few months ago, where I would like, listen to GH reviews, like we'll see Britt and Jason, and Brock T was just like, I just love Britt and Jason so much. And then you were just like, I'll go on your channel, like, I'm not really a big person on romance seats. I don't know why. I'm not really big on romance seats. I don't really get the point of them.
It's fun to sit there and find that balance, because everyone has a different and unique perspective,
Right.
And then, I look at even some of the subscribers, like I'll sit there and look at Samuel for an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Samuel and you have a lot more in common as far as like Nina and Nate and stuff like that. But yet, Samuel, exactly. But yet, Samuel will sit there and be in the chat. He'll be in my chat, support me and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's really cool, that he can appreciate different perspectives, even if he doesn't necessarily always agree with what I say,
Right. Because it's so weird. Like when I look at every single one of like the soap commentators, I swear I could like put a soap opera name on each one to kind of describe the differences. Like okay, like GH Sunday Ship at times gives. Okay, Jonathan, we see you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much. Johnson says, just want to say good night. Thank you, Albert and DC Soap Sanctuary. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night to you. Thank you.
Have a great night. We'll see you in the next one.
Like GH Sunday Shift gives all my children vibes because they're very socially political with it, right? And then you got like everyone has a unique. I swear I could point the unique style out with just the name of the soap, but it's little stuff like that. It's little stuff like that.
Why do I feel like you didn't want to continue? like you didn't want to continue because maybe you would have probably like offended someone or something, or
no. I mean,
okay, all right. No. I thought you didn't want to get canceled because you know me, I don't give a damn about getting canceled. You know that already.
I mean, come on. I did have that Steve Burton video from way back yonder. So the fact that I survived that video shows that I.
All right. Respect.
I was shocked that I survived that video, by the way. I was shocked. I was waiting for people to just eat me alive. But I think
have a good night, Daisy Flower.
To a social media platform. That's what I think it was. I was safe. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying have a good night, Daisy Flower. Thank you for joining us.
So I mean, I survived that video. That was scary for me. I survived. Y'all can check out my Steve Burton video from way back yonder. You see? But I survived. But I think I survived it because I presented my point of view, but I gave it away. You gotta give people a little bit what they want, a little bit of understanding and whatever. But like I said, when you're on these platforms, you gotta stand 10 toes down. You gotta be very confident in yourself. And I feel like most times in life, things will just be reflecting back to you where you're at with yourself. So if you are confident with yourself, if you are feeling okay with yourself, that's going to be reflected back to you a lot of times, even with your audience as well. You're going to have some naysayers, in the chat and some stuff like that, you know what I mean? But,
And what I'll sit there and say before we go, as far as one other thing, to sit there and I guess give some pointers or whatever, because apparently I'm in a position to give pointers.
Yeah, look at you. Over here.
Is to understand that you're going to get negative feedback. You're going to get negative feedback. It's an opinion. Okay. So it doesn't matter if your opinion is good or not. Somebody's going to sit there and disagree with you.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to sit there and say, you know what? I didn't like this review or whatever. It sucks. Don't ignore it. Don't sit there and act like it didn't exist. Just feel it and move forward.
Feel it.
Seriously, feel it and move forward. Don't sit there and pretend. Don't sit there and put the armor like, oh, whatever. Like it didn't mean anything. It didn't bother me. Because there's times where it does, but don't let it paralyze you.
Right.
Because you're gonna get that, and that's just it comes with the territory of what you do.
Because you gotten some tough comments. I've seen some of the comments. You got some tough up. I mean, there was
Yeah.
one video you did. Okay, I'm not gonna reference the video because people might go back and go look. But you got some tough comments. I mean, I read some of the comments like, damn, that was rough.
And of course, I got the comment of my famous one, which is my favorite one. Is the I'm a Brock Jr.
Brock Jr.
Yeah, I'm a Brock Jr.
Wow.
I'm not gonna let that go. I'm just not gonna let that go. But again,
Right.
you know, it is what it is. But what would you sit there and say about that?
No, I mean, I was gonna say that like I said, I just remember some of the tough comments you got. I mean, I haven't got nothing too crazy yet. Um that I've nothing too crazy just as of yet. I haven't gotten nothing that crazy yet, honestly. Um I mean, there would be some comments I'd be like, "Oh, don't you know that this was what happened in this time frame? You don't know your history, you know, whatever." Like, but other than that, nothing too wild, like nothing as rough as you got. I'll be honest, that's nothing as rough as what you got is what I see thus far. Nothing that rough just yet. So I guess I'm a little bit grateful. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and then it's funny too because I sit there and think about the comments I had, right? Then there's stuff that James have gotten that's even worse than the
Yeah,
stuff that I've gotten, you know. And he's been doing it for 8 years and he's still here.
yeah.
So it's just one of those things where it's like you have to deal with it, you have to feel it, and then you have to sit there and move forward.
I agree. I agree. I agree. That's why I would say to anybody going into this, one, be okay with being on somewhat of a public platform because that's what this is, and just be mindful. You know, I'm not gonna say you gotta have thick skin like we're in Hollywood. You know, this is YouTube wood. So you know what I'm saying, but you gotta be prepared for that. So fans are probably not as bad as just like general YouTube fans. I feel like. So there's a little bit of control there when it's there, but I would just say for those people, just like be mindful what you're doing this for, have fun with it, like you said, and at the same time, just always bring you to the table because, like I said, they come for the review, but they stay for you. So just always keep that in mind.
Yeah. I think you pretty much kind of wrapped it up. Is there anything else you want to sit there and say before we head out?
Um, Okay, I mean, nothing yet. I mean, guys, I might be going live this Saturday. You might catch me and might be doing a review. Emphasis on might, because I don't want nobody, say, hey, where's that review at?
Exactly like Rock TV when we did our last review.
Exactly. So it's a might. So think about it. Think about me in terms of like GH, how they might deliver you something good for the week. But I will deliver something good if I do deliver, but I might deliver something. So just think about it that way. We might. But other than that, nothing else I can think of. It's been a good live. What about you?
I had fun as usual. I always have fun sitting there chopping up with you. And with the audience, with everyone here and stuff like that. You know me when I sit there and do lives 5 days a week. And I'm doing it by myself. So, I always sit there and give everyone my undivided attention. So even though I didn't really sit there and reference too many people in the chat, I am very grateful that everyone stuck with us, sit there and just listen to us talk and chop it up and stuff like that. So thank you everyone for your patience and your understanding. I really appreciate that. And yeah, of course.
Samuel made a comment. I just wanted to quickly respond to this. Cool. He said, I think different perspectives on how we gravitate to certain characters come from what we have experienced personally. Yes, Samuel, I agree. That's why I love Nate so much. And that's why I'm not an Elena fan. I've been dealing with Elena in real life. That's why I gravitate towards Nate. Now you understand.
Yeah,
I'm serious. Yeah.
I think Samuel needs to sit there and get a YouTube channel. He needs to sit there and get a soap opera channel. Because if he gets one, oh my God, it's gonna be amazing.
I think so too. But honestly, no, I agree with him. I think that we definitely gravitate to those characters from the personal experiences. We do. We definitely gravitate to those. I agree with him. I agree with him with that. But yeah, I think you should have one too. I'm still waiting for Nikisha. Yeah. I'm still waiting for hers.
Oh, Nikisha's gonna get one. We're gonna try to. We're gonna find a way to make that happen. Yeah. So with that being said, I think we're gonna sit there and end this live right here. But I do want to sit there and thank everyone for joining. This was so much fun. I really appreciate everyone in the chat just supporting both of us, supporting both of our channels. I will sit there and leave a link towards DC's channel in the description box below. So definitely support him if you're not supporting him. I don't know what the hell you're doing, but definitely support my guy DC. And thank you everyone for joining. Again, DC may sit there and want to doing a live on Saturday, so if he does, definitely support my guy.
I'll be going live. I'll be going live, and I'll be doing at least one review. At least one review.
Thank you, Jakaris. Thank you. I know you're kind of late to the chat, but we were sitting there talking about you promoting your channel, of course. So So with that being said, we're going to go. But I want to thank everyone for watching. Stay safe. Have a great, safe, amazing weekend, and we will see you in the next live.